Imagine you are a fisherman. Every morning you leave your home and walk to the sea. Your father did this. Your grandfather did this. People in this place have done it for 1,000 years. And one morning you walk outside and you don't see water. You see a desert. A sea the size of Ireland. Evaporated. Gone. Leaving behind a white salt desert and rusting ships lying in the sand, 150 kilometers from the water. This is called one of the greatest environmental disasters of the 20th century. But it is only the first half of the story. Because the second half is about how Kazakhstan is doing what was once considered absolutely impossible. It is bringing the sea back. Not all of it, not at once, but part of the Aral Sea has already returned, reaching targets that scientists had planned only for 2029, 4 years ahead of schedule. How did this happen? And why does it matter to the entire world? To understand how Kazakhstan is bringing back the sea, you first need to understand how it lost it. In the early 1960s, the Aral Sea was enormous. Its surface area covered 68,000 square kilometers, roughly the size of Ireland, or twice the size of Belgium. In some places, it reached depths of 68 meters. The sea was home to more than 20 species of fish. The fishing fleet numbered thousands of vessels. The ports of Aralsk on the Kazakh side and Moynaq on the Uzbek side were thriving cities. The Soviet government made a decision that seemed, at the time, entirely rational. Central Asia is a hot, arid region, but it has two major rivers, the Amu Darya and the Sia Darya. They flow into the Aral Sea. If you divert water from those rivers to irrigate fields, you can grow cotton. A lot of cotton. The Soviet Union was one of the world's largest cotton exporters. So the irrigation canals were built, thousands of kilometers of them. Water was drawn from the rivers to the fields. Less and less reached the sea. The result was catastrophic. By 1987, the sea had split into two parts, northern and southern. By 1997, water volume had fallen by 75%. By 2007, the southern portion had nearly completely disappeared. In its place, the Aralkum Desert, one of the youngest deserts on the planet, less than 60 years old. On the floor of this new desert remained salts, pesticides, and chemical fertilizers that had accumulated in the water over decades. Wind picked up this toxic mixture and carried it across Central Asia. Salt storms reached the Himalayas and the Arctic. Scientists found Aral salt even in the snows of Greenland. On the shore of what remained of the Aral Sea stands the city of Aralsk. Its history is the story of the sea itself in miniature. In the early 20th century, Aralsk was a busy port. Fish, sturgeon, carp, pike perch, flowed through it to every major city in the country. In 1921, during a devastating famine, the fishermen of Aralsk sent several train cars of fish as a gift to the starving people of Moscow. It is said that Lenin personally thanked the fishermen of Aralsk by telegram. Then the sea began to retreat, slowly but unstoppably. Fishing vessels ran aground right in the harbor. The port was moved closer to the water, once, then again, then again. But the sea retreated faster than the docks could be relocated. Eventually, the ships were simply abandoned where they stood. Today, those rusting vessels, the famous ship graveyard, sit in the middle of the steppe, several kilometers from the city. By the 1990s, Aralsk's fishing industry had ceased to exist entirely. Young people left, the population shrank, the city was becoming a ghost town. And then something remarkable happened. The residents of Aralsk, once abandoned by the retreating shoreline, can now see water within sight of the city again. The sea has returned. Not fully, not as it once was, but enough that Aralsk has a working fish processing plant again. Fishing boats are out on the water again. There are jobs again. People who had left have started coming back. How did Kazakhstan achieve this? The answer is surprisingly simple. In 2005, with support from the World Bank, Kazakhstan built the Kokaral Dam, a 13-kilometer earthen barrier across the strait that once connected the northern and southern parts of the Aral Sea. Cost, approximately $85 million. By the standards of major infrastructure projects, that is a remarkably small sum. Comparable environmental projects in other countries have cost tens of times more. The dam separated the northern portion of the sea, the small Aral, from the southern portion, which continued to dry up. Water from the Syr Darya River no longer drained endlessly into the desert, but accumulated in the enclosed basin. The results exceeded all expectations. Following the first phase of the project, water volume in the sea increased by 42%, reaching 27 billion cubic meters. Salinity dropped nearly fourfold, and annual fish catches reached almost 8,000 metric tons. The fish came back. 22 species that had disappeared from these waters reappeared. Fishermen who had not cast their nets in 20 years returned to the water. But the dam was only the beginning. The real challenge was harder. Where would the water come from to keep filling the sea? The Syr Darya River, the main water source for the North Aral, is still diverted for irrigating fields in the Kyzyloda region of Kazakhstan, where rice is one of the primary crops. Here, something unexpected happened. Instead of banning irrigation or reducing farmland, Kazakh engineers applied laser leveling to the rice fields. It sounds like something from a different field entirely, but the logic is simple. Uneven fields mean enormous water losses. Water pools in low spots, sits there, and evaporates. Laser leveling makes the surface perfectly flat to within a centimeter. Water is distributed evenly. Losses are minimal. The use of water-saving technologies and laser leveling of rice paddies in the Kyzyloda region saved approximately 200 million cubic meters of water, which were then directed into the North Aral. Leveling 55,000 hectares of rice fields also boosted crop yields from 4 to 5.5 tons per hectare to 7 to 8 tons per hectare. Farmers got twice as much rice while using less water, and the saved water went to the sea. It is a rare case where an environmental project and the economic interests of farmers aligned perfectly. While the North Aral fills with water, something no less remarkable is happening in the south. Where the sea floor once lay, a forest is now growing. Literally. Between 2021 and 2024, 4.4 million seedlings were planted across 475,000 hectares of the dried seabed. In 2025, plans call for greening an additional 428,000 hectares, bringing the total forested area to 1.1 million hectares. This is not just an environmental gesture. There is solid engineering logic behind it. The bare, dried seabed was a source of constant salt storms. Wind lifted millions of tons of salt, mixed with pesticides and chemicals, into the air. These storms blanketed cities, destroyed crops, and caused illness in people thousands of kilometers away. The trees, mainly saxaul, a drought-resistant tree native to Central Asia, anchor the soil with their roots. They halt erosion. They trap salt. They create a microclimate in which other plants can take hold. 1.1 million hectares of forest on a former seabed, an area comparable to the territory of Lebanon. A man-made forest where waves once rolled just a few decades ago. And here is the final twist in this story, one that happened only recently. Since 2023, approximately 5 billion cubic meters of water have entered the North Aral Basin, bringing the total to 24.1 billion cubic meters. That figure exceeds the target set by Kazakhstan's Water Resources Management concept, which had aimed for just 20.6 billion cubic meters by 2025. In plain terms, the sea is recovering faster than planned. The benchmarks scientists had expected to reach by 2029 have already been achieved, 4 years ahead of schedule. This rarely happens in global environmental practice. Usually, it goes the other way. You plan for one thing and get something worse. Here, the plan has been exceeded. The second phase of the project will expand the North Aral surface area to 3,913 square kilometers, with a water volume of 34 cubic kilometers. Experts estimate it will take 4 to 5 more years to fill the sea to that level. The Kokaral Dam is planned to be raised by another 2 meters. Within 5 years, the North Aral surface area could be twice what it is today. But an honest account of the Aral cannot end on good news alone. The southern portion of the sea, in Uzbekistan's territory, has seen almost no recovery. In its place lies the Aralkum Desert, a white salt plain, toxic and nearly lifeless. This division was a direct result of Kazakhstan's strategy. The Kokaral Dam saved the north by cutting it off from the south. Water that had previously seeped slowly between the two halves now stays in the north. The southern portion lost even that trickle. This was an ethically difficult decision.
Kazakhstan saved its sea at the cost of eliminating Uzbekistan's last chance at natural recovery. There is also a longer-term threat. Most of the water in the Sir Darya and Amu Darya rivers comes from melting glaciers in the Tian Shan and Pamir Mountains. Those glaciers are retreating due to global warming. In recent years, low water periods have already affected the sea level. At some point, the natural inflow may no longer be sufficient to sustain even the progress that has been made. The story of the Aral Sea is simultaneously a story of failure and a story of hope. Of failure, because people destroyed a vast natural body of water in just a few decades in pursuit of economic gain. They took the water from the rivers. They forgot to ask the sea whether it agreed. Of hope, because other people in the same country, a few decades later, found a way to correct part of what had been done. They built a dam for $85 million. They leveled rice paddies with lasers. They planted a forest on the ocean floor. And they gave the sea back to the city that had lost it. Aralsk can see the water again. Fishermen are out on the water again. 22 species of fish, absent for decades, are once again swimming in the North Aral. This is not a complete victory. The South Aral cannot be brought back. The glaciers keep melting. The future is uncertain. But it is proof of something important, that human beings who are capable of destroying nature quickly can sometimes restore it, more slowly, more painfully, more expensively. But they can. A sea that vanished within one generation is returning in the next.